Woo-hoo. Stream is live. We're
Live. Here we
live.
go. Ladies
Here
and
comes
gentlemen, have you here comes Superman, Superwoman.
flying into the studio.
Right? That's how we
Yeah,
do it. That's how we
it
do it
is.
here. Well,
It's
ladies and
true.
gentlemen, to everybody that's maybe listening or you're watching, I don't know if it's Friday or Saturday, maybe it's morning, maybe it's evening. I got an incredible show for you today. Some incredible ideas. Today, I have the privilege of hosting a true visionary, a woman whose journey through the realms of technology has not only shaped industries, but has transcended into the very essence of human experience. Our guest is none other than Suzan Brown, a trailblazer in the world of technology, CEO and inventor, who has left an indelible mark from the early days of designing Ethernet for Apple computer motherboards to being a pioneer of the internet at Web TV and Microsoft. However, her current venture, Token of Me, takes us on an extraordinary philosophical expedition into the uncharted territories of human consciousness. She is the architect of the Soul Compass, a groundbreaking device designed not just to measure, but to elevate the very flow of human existence. In a world where we navigate the digital landscape of our lives, Suzan Brown has embarked on a mission to quantify and reward our very improvements in the art of living. Today, we unravel the philosophy behind the Soul Compass, the Token of Me, a compass not just for navigating, but a guide to our very souls. And not only do we have Suzan Brown, but we have the incredible Anya Zebert over here. She's not your typical expert. She's a modern ambassador of change, firm in her belief that our past experiences don't define us. It's the present and the potential we see for ourselves tomorrow that truly shape who we are. Ladies, I'm so stoked you're both here today. Suzan, how are you feeling today? Let's start with you. How's it going today?
I'm feeling great. I had already a call this morning that, like, if the audience gets goosebumps, that's resonance. That's a cosmic orgasm with your divine true self. And that happened, and that's like everything to me. If you can resonate with your soul, with your divine connection, and your heart sings and you get goosebumps, um, there's really no greater validation than that you are in a flow state. The
Yeah,
power is on.
it's
So
amazing to me that seems like a true raw form of communication, like when the
oh yeah.
same way that the octopus has its ways in which its skin gets different textures or it changes colors. It
Mhm.
seems that in the flow state or maybe the human connection can do something similar.
Yeah, absolutely. When you are in a flow state, you are really tapped in and allowing a surge of quality energy to flow through you. You're like a laser beam for source energy. And that's when you're most creative, you have more clarity, it's more satisfying, you feel lighter, you have great timing. It's as if other people and things in the outer world just come at you with precise timing. It feels like magic. It can feel like magic. It'll make you feel love and laugh and play. Like that's when you're calling it in. That's when it's happening. And that's what we're measuring.
What is your first recognition, or what is the first time like you began to feel the flow state? Is this like a relationship that you found in the 80s? Is it something that has always been going on in your life that there wasn't something to explain? Is it Mahaley Csikszentmihalyi? I don't know if I pronounced his name right, but like what was your first introduction to the flow state? If you can maybe catch us up on that.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if it was my first, but I used to run when I was a kid. I was a runner and I was really fast. And my favorite show was the $6 Million Man. It's Steve Austin.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, I can run, I can be fast, and like I actually was really strong just by thinking about it. I got fast, and I got runner's high, when I would run. And I started breaking records, in junior high school, and the boys hated me because I was faster than them. So my first experience wasn't actually all that pleasant because it evoked kind of some jealousy and
Sure.
resentment. But later, when it felt great, was when I met Steve Jobs. I mean, it was the most transformative experience, and it was a more subtle experience of flow. I wasn't being physical. I was just in the right place at the right time, watching this amazing person unveil the Macintosh and the commercial, the 1984 commercial. And this was 1983. And I was like, oh my God, that man can see the future. He's flowing. Like you get into this state and you get ideas. You get these beautiful inspirations. That's where you have the patented ideas or the breakthroughs, or you write the hit song if you're a musician.
Right.
So watching Steve Jobs and others like him at Apple go into a flow state and create new technology, I was like, okay, that's it. That's value. That's like the highest value, is to figure this out. So for years, I've been wanting to figure it out. And then this project was inspired by Roger Federer. When I watched him win the Australian Open, his last Grand Slam, I believe he won, he's like accepting, the trophy, and he's thanking everybody. He's in this extraordinary state of appreciation and gratitude. And he's so humble and so graceful, and he's just crying tears of joy. He's just so happy and so in love. And he just like goes into flow. And I thought to myself, and I said out loud, I want to bottle that up. Like, that's it. That's what we all want, is to feel like that guy on top of the world, feeling so worthy and so free and so powerful, and yet grateful, really not ego. It's much more heart than head. And I'm like, that's it. That's it. Like, that's it. How can I measure that?
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, like, I can't not do this. And I had dreams that I chose to do this, before I was born. I'm like, okay, bring it on, world. Let's do it. Let's do it. So
It's,
you're speechless.
I am. When you talk about Steve Jobs in that 1984 commercial, the same way that commercial played on the ideas of 1984, where they broke and disrupted IBM, so too do I see this idea of the Soul Compass breaking down the new economy. Like I'm just wondering, is the flow state contagious? Is it like, you're talking about this incredible event that happened, you're inspired by it. It's almost like the baton has been passed to you on some level. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Are you kidding? I mean, there's real power and energy and true influence if you can elevate your allowance to let more of this powerful divine energy flow in, which is what happens in a flow state. You're literally tapped into free energy at that point. You become a laser beam, and there's real power in a laser beam with high resonance. It calls everyone up, like real influence. It literally can call without words the best to come out. It can make other people's hearts sing. It's like when you listen to music and you get goosebumps, it pulls you up.
Yeah.
And that you're able to hear. But a source energy flow is non-physical energy, but it's like liquid love. And and so if you watch a movie or listen to a song or watch someone perform and present a new idea, and it like makes your heart sing and you get goosebumps, there's no more powerful energy than love in a human body. So when you can radiate true love, like unconditional love, and that's what a flow state is, that's your highest value. And that's why we're tokenizing that. The essence of the true you is the most valuable thing you got for everyone, you and everyone in the whole world. You become, the creator of new breakthroughs, the creator of hit songs, the winner of matches, and you break records, right? You like you lead the way, and you show humanity what's possible, and you inspire everyone to their better self. Yeah.
I gotta pause for a minute, because it's
big.
I think it's worthy of a pause for a moment, just to let that sink in, right? Like, it's,
yeah.
I want to bring in Anya for a moment too. Like, Anya, you have done some incredible work on heart coherence and different altered states like that. When you think about the flow state, Anya, what are you thinking about it, and how does it make you feel?
Yeah, my first thought is play,
Great.
just let's have fun. Life is a game. Let's just have fun. And when you are in this state that everything is just, that you're at the playground, you have these toys that you are using, and you are, I don't know, like in this freedom state. That's why I don't free spirit. Free spirit is flow.
Yep.
Everything is connected, when you think about, but it's like, yeah, like Suzan said, you're like so grateful. I'm so grateful every morning when I wake up. It's like, just because I'm alive, because I'm incarnated at this time on planet Earth, I'm so grateful. And it's like, nothing else matters. I don't know what's going to happen in the day. It's probably, it can blow up everything, whatever. I don't know, but I'm still so grateful. Nobody can take that feeling away from me. So it comes from inside, not from outside.
Yeah. And the reason why play triggers it, just to really kind of back this up, what Anya's saying, the reason why play is so powerful as a trigger is you're not in your head. You're in the moment. The head is often used to think in the past and worry about the future. It's very rational. But when you're in a play state like a kid, you're very present, and you're allowing literally presence to become greater. You're in the now. You're in a timeless state. And this is what we've seen with the biometrics. When you're in a timeless play state, like your heart skips a beat, we see that. And that actually creates a spike in your heart power and your heart coherence.
All right. So I know you can't give me the secret sauce on there, but we start talking about metrics and biofeedback and measurement and imagination and imagery. Like, can you give us a little, like, just a little taste of, like, how do you measure the flow state? I mean, obviously goosebumps, like I have them right now, but like thinking about what the flow state is, living in the present moment, the incredible connection between the left and right hemisphere, and living in a metaphor, and all these beautiful ways in which we can go through life. But how do you measure that? Like, what are you doing to measure that and then tokenize it? Like, can you give us a little background on that?
We can get almost everything we want from the heart. The heart doesn't lie. And we don't even measure the brain. We don't care what the left or the right brain hemisphere is doing. We don't even care what you're thinking. We want you out of your head. The head usually leads you into a linear path of limited beliefs and thoughts that evoke negative emotions. And so you can't think your way into a flow state. It's more about a feeling, and it resonates with love and joy and play. So the more appreciation you feel, the more blessed you feel if you could cultivate and calibrate a feeling of this lightness, like, and this playfulness, and just do it for love. Follow your heart, trust yourself, believe in yourself, look on the bright side, follow those breadcrumbs that feel better. Then you reach like a point of surrender, and you let go. That's when the flow can actually come in. And if you go, whoa, oh my God, you start noticing it, you'll lose it. Like, it's that subtle. If you're an athlete and you're starting to notice how well you're performing, you're starting to compare and get in your head, and you're literally tripping yourself up. So you want to just stay in that timeless state. And most of our pilots, and Anya's one of the advanced ones, they do it readily by just going into meditation. Is the fastest way to just like, okay, I want to turn it on, is to stop thinking and go into meditation. And we can see that immediately, the results. We see the biometrics rising when you go into meditation or do something else like listen to music or just go into a rampage of appreciation and, you know, talk about something that you're just so passionate about, and then, you know, let yourself do it. Or if you're an artist, just go create, go play, go do something. It's about lowering your resistance in your body and in your thoughts and even in your emotions. And so it's almost like a game, as Anya said. It's a game, and we're just providing a tool that lets you connect the dots to see what works. So it's kind of like a self-discovery, because everyone's a little different. Right. You know, how I flow might be different from each of you. And so it's not about comparing myself about you and me. It's just more about measuring myself with me. How can I move my own needle? How can I raise my own bar? And not, you know, if you try too hard, which it's happened, you know, we get people who force it, they realize that that's not working. And it's a bit paradoxical at first, because, you know, we have such a mindset in this world that it's about your efforting and you're suffering and you're trying and you're doing. And it's actually not. When you're in a flow state, you're just in your grace, and it's not, you don't have to deserve love. You just are, you know. And so it's a little game, right? It's a little bit of art and science. It's a little bit of thought, but it's mostly feeling and experimenting. So we're just giving people a tool to at least experiment for their own self-discovery.
Sometimes I think of the mystical state. Like I've found myself to be a lover of life's mysteries, and I like to read like Mircea Eliade and these ideas like the terror before the sacred. And you look back to the medieval mystics and you find like the cloud of the unknowing, and you see these people bumping up against something that's bigger than them. Maybe it's just a different version of them, but they're touched by the flow in some way, and they're seeing things that they've never seen before, and they're communicating in ways, and they're producing things. Is there a relationship between the mystical state and the flow state?
Absolutely. And here's our understanding of that.
Okay.
That when you quiet your mind and you start to calibrate to these higher quality of energy without resistance, like the more pure you become, you know, you're opening your channel, if you will, your physical and non-physical being is now more is flowing in. And as this happens, you're now going to receive thoughts, even like in my case, callings. You'll receive clarity. You're now tapping into the higher mind, the divine mind. And its collective mind is not chaos. It's like love, clarity, knowing. It's the truth. You know, it's that which will set you free. You know, if you could hear it, if you could connect with it, that is very mystical, and you'll receive such powerful downloads, right? And that's what has happened to me and a handful of our pilots. They get these downloads and they're like, yep, that's it. You don't doubt it. You know it. You go beyond science. You know, it goes into your gut and your soul, and you just have a knowing. And that's not a place that science wants to go, right? It's very mystical.
That's right.
So we're kind of like a bridge between the hard physical scientific world and the spiritual world, but we give it grounding. We give it validity. And not only that, we connect the dots and say, yeah, that's actually what you want, is to raise your vibration and calibrate to these higher coherent states, and you will then receive these mystical thoughts, that you can't when you're down here grinding it out, feeling like just a limited human. But when you can, cohere with, it's actually what's happening is like with goosebumps, you're resonating with higher and higher harmonic frequencies. So like in a mystical state, George, even Joe Dispenza talked about this, because they measure people's brainwaves all the time and they get into mystical states, and the brain waves go from gamma to like white noise, as if you're having a seizure. And then they got kind of concerned about that, like, oh, is this guy okay? Maybe he's having a mystical experience, but his brain looks like it's, fried. And then they look at the heart and go, oh, you're more than okay. You're having incredible heart coherence. And so now if you listen to Joe Dispenza, he'll even say, okay, yeah, we've been measuring the brain because the brain thinks it knows, but the heart actually does know. So we're really focused more on the heart for understanding these mystical experiences and knowing the difference between feeling, chaotic versus coherent. And the difference is, in a coherent state, you're experiencing higher and higher harmonics that we can measure even in your heart rate and in the energy of your heartbeat. We're actually deriving the power and energy spectrum of your heart rate. And we can now see in a mystical experience, your heart rate goes way down and your heart power spikes. It goes through the roof. And Anya's seen this. We have this almost on a weekly basis. We'll have one of our pilots submitting some results of a very powerful meditation, or just lost in concentration in something he loves. And then boom, like, it's so weird. It was almost an accident. We noticed that the heart rate is almost going in half, and if you study longtime meditators, their heart rate slows so down so much, it's almost approaching zero, because they're just leaving their physical body and they're in full connection with the true source that we all come from.
It's so beautiful. I think it also speaks to the idea of our limited understanding, or our construction of time. Too, we start talking about the heart rate changing, speeding up, slowing down. No wonder it's in the mystical state of the flow state. 1 minute may seem like an hour, or a day may seem like a minute. There's the New York minute.
That's right. You go into slow motion. And people who have had a flow state triggered because of an emergency, like in a car, or, it can trigger a flow state, and everyone will say in those states, or had a near-death experience, they'll come back and say, oh, everything went into slow motion, and all that happened is their whole system calibrated to an incredibly high frequency of higher harmonics. That time did slow down and their heart rate did go down. From our perspective here in this ordinary world, they went into the true world, which is timeless.
I do. This is what I want to touch on this for a little bit. For everybody listening to this or watching this, this is why this idea, what Suzan is making happen, is transiting to reality, is incredible. What does the world look like when we teach people to slow down time in their life? What is possible? What kind of learning can be done? What kind of illnesses can be conquered? What kind of relationships can be had? What kind of dreams can be conquered, right?
Everything, quite literally. It is everything. I mean, if you don't even have to flow, but if you can just improve the direction, like just go up instead of down, like that would be also, and that's why we're rewarding even that. You don't have to be at the top of your game. You just have to show yourself that you know how to like go in the direction of your improvement, because whenever anyone does that, we all win.
Yes.
This will bring about a
Yes.
win-win world. And more love, more trust, more joy, more satisfaction, and more abundance that is not just measured in money, but abundance of time, abundance of opportunity, abundance of beauty, abundance of relationships, but they're higher quality relationships. They're more loving. And right now, there's a lot of people suffering from not just depression, but feeling very codependent and not knowing who they are and feeling lost. And that can actually pull others down, because you cannot pull someone up. We've got to figure out how to find it, because it comes from within. And too many people are trying to fix the conditions and the responding to the conditions, and you can never get it to change by. And that's, one of the reasons why I loved when I met Steve Jobs and the 1884 commercial that I saw in 83. It was the first time he was using it was a huge a ballroom in Hawaii. It was at the Sheraton in Hawaii. And, when you have a big group of people and you want to display like a commercial, like the commercial, if anybody walking in the room, it can create interference. And then you got this amazing 1984 commercial on the screen and somebody's walking by, So what they did, and it had never been done before, is he used a rear projection camera behind the screen. And I'm going into this, like, it may sound like I'm going off on a road trip here, a side trip. That was so symbolic, because the message was, it's all an inside job. You wouldn't, if you want to change what's happening in this world around you, if you want to change your relationships, change your job, change the people, you don't go out there and try to change them. You got to change your inner projector.
Yeah.
And just like with this commercial being broadcast on the screen, if you don't like what's on the screen, you don't go up to the screen to change it. You got to go to the source.
Right.
So that's what's happening. This world will kind of flip and be more aware of the inside out projection and be less reactive and less conditional and more self-empowered to change what's out there by changing what's inside here. What's going on inside you? What are your beliefs? What are your feelings? And how can you change that if you want to change what's going on outside?
Yeah, it's. I think you should come to Hawaii into the Sheraton and film a commercial.
Oh, that's right. You're in Hawaii. Right. That's right. I lived on Kauai for 5 years. And, I had one of my most spiritual experiences there. So, yeah, I should come to Hawaii.
Let's hear about, can you tell us about one of your most spiritual experiences on Kauai?
Oh, wow. So many. But I guess the first one ever was, I was 12 years old and my family brought me there. And my mom was in real estate and they wanted her to pre-sell the Princeville lots on the North Shore of Kauai. And so we all got to go there, my brothers and my sister. And without asking for permission, my brothers and my siblings, we felt like we were on another planet. I mean, it was just like so beautiful, right? This was in 1976, like eons ago, right? And we crawled down the mountain cliff and went into there's no one there, right? And we found this cave, and inside it were just covered with shells, these beautiful conch shells, like there's none there now.
Right.
And it was like gold, we just thought we had discovered gold, right? This gold mine of beauty and exquisiteness untouched. And I was 12, and it was my first most spiritual experience of my life because it stopped time. And I mean, I remember it started to rain. I remember, you know, we were stuffing these, we put them in our pockets. We were carrying as many of these up as we could because it was just like, you know, gold to us. You know, that's why as a child, I had such this profound experience that brought me back probably 30 years later to live there. And then I was so in love with this island. It spoke to me. I mean, I had true communication with Kauai. You know, it really, I could feel the presence in my room at night sometimes when I was focused on what a beautiful place it was and things like that. You know, just, I really feel like I practice thinking and receiving there. Like I practice, like, wow, you really do, where your thoughts goes, energy does flow. Because when you're there and you're in Hawaii now, it's like the volume is turned up. You know, careful what you wish for on Hawaii. You know, because it's really fast. It's more power, more energy.
Yeah, it's so alive. Like I took my daughter on a. Can I share a quick experience that I had that was pretty mystical? Yes. Okay, so in 2011, my son had passed away. My son Ocean, he's named Ocean, beautiful kid. He passed away, and my wife and I went to the Big Island, and we went up to the top of Mauna Kea, and it was just us up there. For some reason, we went to this. We hiked up the side of this. We didn't go to the very summit, but we went to the visitor center, and then there's this little hike you can do. We walked up to the summit, and you look down, and you're on the rim of this world, and we're staring over at like Mauna Loa, and we make this prayer of like, oh, you know, we are so blessed to be healthy and happy, and we've had this tragedy happen in our life, and we just want to say a prayer to the world that we can have a healthy and happy child. And like a year later, we had my daughter, we named her Sky. So this year we went back to the mountaintop over there, and we brought our daughter Sky to the top of the mountain. We explained that story to her. You know, and it's like, when you talk about Hawaii and things manifesting, like there's something so magical here. But I want to tie my experience to your experience in Hawaii and the flow state. I think that something's happening in that flow state where you can begin to communicate with nature. Like you begin to see nature communicating to you. Maybe you could speak to that a little bit. It's happening, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you have more energy flowing through you, and nature, whether it's Mother Nature or animals, they are always, for the most part, flowing. Like they don't lose that connection because they're not thinking their way out of it.
Right.
Humans do that. We have more free will and we have more intention. But absolutely, when you're flowing, you're basically at their speed. You know, you're at their frequency. And so it's sort of, you have more harmony with much more of your truth that includes nature. And that's why just being in a place like Hawaii can be so healing, just being there, because the energy is so strong and so coherent that, I mean, like just prior when I made a video of Kauai because it's so beautiful, and I was up all night, you know, editing, and then early in the morning when I went to bed, that's when I felt the essence of Kauai come into my room. And I'm like, I wasn't afraid. I said, so who are you? And I felt and heard loud and clear, it's Kauai. I'm like, whoa, you know, I felt like getting out of bed and, you know, bowing. And she just said, it was very feminine. Just remember, when you're loving me, you're loving you. And I just cried. I'm like, oh my God, that's like so simple and yet so profoundly true. That's why we want to increase our state of love, because when you love, you can't help but receive it. Right. It's a win-win state of value, and it's uplifting and it's healing. And so, yeah, the body can miraculously heal, as we all know, in higher states of love and coherence. And so, yeah, it's you do have a stronger connection, and depending on your beliefs, you know, you can actually manifest more with more energy and integrity the life you want to live in harmony because you have no resistance when you're flowing. And, that's all it takes, is to lower your resistance and let it, there's only love. It's just, are you letting it in? And it will convert into relationships, beauty, opportunity, new forms of abundance, freedom, clarity, fun, all these, love, bliss, lightness of being, all these things come in stronger the more you let it in.
Yeah, that's really well said. It's I can't think of a time in my life where you can feel fear and love at the same time.
No, they're on the opposite ends of the spectrum. That would be irrational. They are, like the opposite of goosebumps is chills. So your energy's rushing in the opposite direction with chills. You're either cold or going to fear. So it can feel similar, but the energy is flowing in different directions.
This brings up the idea of awareness. When I see someone, here's a cool experiment people can do. And we see it all the time with people who maybe have lost their sight. Like they have a cane and they're using they project their awareness through a cane, and then they can feel the world around them. And we can do it too. If I just take my pen, I can feel my bookcase. I can move my awareness through my pen and reach out and touch stuff. In the flow state, are we channeling our awareness into like a bigger container? I mean, are we doing kind of the similar thing by projecting our awareness?
It's not a projection.
Okay.
It's the other direction. It's you're allowing, and you're actually more in the receiving mode.
Okay.
So a lot of people think like, power comes from flowing and channeling and directing and projecting. It's not that. It's more, it may sound passive, but it's not. The ability to like radiate and resonate with your true self is one that's born worthy, and it's not your doing. You're not radiating. The concept of no gain without pain, like that's a false belief. And this is the opposite. So when you're in a receptive mode, that's why meditation's so effective. You're not doing, and you don't believe you need to do to receive this love, this liquid love that comes in. And this, you become more aware that is much more than the physical. And I like the term being more aware, because it goes past the physical. And the more you're awarenessing, the more you're tapping into divine truth and energy and power and wisdom. And that's when you start to receive knowings. You're like, oh, okay, you can trust your gut. What you say is of value, and then you get inspired to take action for the fun of it, not to prove it, but for the fun of it, to physically enjoy the fruits, not of your labor, but of your truth, of your just being love, and not needing to prove it. And you're not into comparing yourself to others. You don't see right and wrong anymore. You're receiving solutions. You're not working on the problem. You don't see things as lacking. You don't even see problems. You just see blessings in disguise. Right? Like your whole perception changes. And that's why in our company, like the investors, the stakeholders, they know that as we evolve, even when it comes time to vote, they have to be in a flow state. Because that's when you're in a win-win state and you're coming from love instead of fear or lack. and you're seeing the problem. I mean, you're seeing the solution, not the problem, right? You have clarity. So everything we do in the future, I see a very different world coming. I really do. The good guys are going to win. Love wins. Currency as we know it is becoming worthless, and this is new value in coherency, in wisdom, in
I
trusting.
love that you brought it up. Yeah. I'm sorry. I interrupted you right there.
No, go. That's it. It's a good stopping point.
Well, I think the fundamental shift from currency to value, like relationships seem to be the new currency. And it seems to me that let's have Anya, you have been test piloting the
Soul Compass.
The Soul Compass. How have you, maybe you could give us a little bit about your thoughts on it. Are you able to oscillate between flow and not flow? Just maybe you could talk about it a little bit and what has been going on since you've been using it. Have you noticed any changes or your thoughts on it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, I would like to just emphasize that I see myself as a very spiritual person, but I'm like also very practical, very, very practical. So what I see with Soul Compass is like amazing tool, with like really connected to my mission as well, because I see it as like we are encouraging people to raise their vibration, to work on themselves, to do that inner work, because when they get in touch with their heart, when they are where they're raising their vibration, like Suzan said, they are like expanding awareness, or we are expanding awareness, we see things differently. So when you're in a conflict or whatever, and you are on this higher vibration, you will find different solution that you will choose different solution that you would otherwise. Yeah. So I see Soul Compass is really like amazing tool, because it's gamifying everything to encourage people, to inspire them to do this work that otherwise they wouldn't do. Yeah, because they're going to be rewarded anyway, at the end. But how I see it, it's like when I started using it, it's okay, then I was checking my chart, my graphs, and like Suzan really helped me with analysis and everything. And I was like, okay, so wow, Anya, you were in flow state there. Like, what were you doing? And I was like, what I was doing, and then it's like, oh, I was in my room, I was assembling puzzles, I was listening to this podcast with really cool topic, and it got me into flow state,
Yeah.
and you really learn a lot about yourself. And for example, I don't know, I was snowboarding, I was walking in woods, or I was a speaker at the podcast, and I was in a flow state. So it's so valuable for me, because, even though, like I said, I'm spiritual. I mean, I live this spiritual concepts and everything, but I'm super practical. So I want everything what I learn with my mind, I want to integrate it, I want to implement it. So it's like I can use this in my life in a most practical way. And of course, yes, it's changing because where you are when you are in a flow state, and you can be tomorrow also in a flow state, because you know what gets you there. So this is my experience.
Yeah, and what's also really powerful, and Anya and other pilots helped us develop this, is the baseline is you. We don't compare ourselves to each other. The comparison is you with you. So it's a game with yourself. And we're purposely taking out the comparison. We won't even allow it. There's no value in judging yourself or judging others. We actually have another trademark called Mine Yourself. You are the value, and you are the miner. You're going to figure this out. And as you do, and we have things called flow tube episodes now, where, like, let's say, George, we could share this podcast as a flow tube episode. Yes. And for those watching, even a replay later, we'll experiment with this. I'll share it with our pilots, and as they watch it, they will check their metrics before and after. And if it goes up, guess what? The curator of the event, which is you, George, you will be rewarded for the value of uplifting your viewers.
How cool is that, huh?
I could do a little happy dance right now.
Yeah, I think we should be flying like
Yeah,
Superman.
we should. Because, this is going to disrupt social media. Right now, social media is about views, and we all know, fear
Fear.
Yeah.
sells,
Most of it.
and that's what keeps the tabloids alive. But we want love to be the new standard, and improvement in the direction of love, and that which resonates with love. And that's value. And we can actually gamify the emotional guidance scale. Like, you could get paid to get happy. And the content creators get rewarded for better content that pulls you up instead of down, because the bar now isn't views, it's improvement.
That is so. Let's talk more about that. That's for
Yeah.
so long the idea of advertising has become this pornographic, symbolic
I know.
nature of just like
Yeah. Yeah.
Like why can't we flip it on its head? It sounds like we figured that out. Like you guys have got this idea. Let's talk more about that.
Yeah, I mean, like right now I'm looking up, there's
Okay.
a token out there called Basic Attention Token, BAT.
Right.
And the I don't know what their current valuation is, but as a whole. But the idea is, if you watch ads, they're holding your attention, and there's theory that there's value in that, which I argue there isn't. But this company has a market cap. The Basic Attention Token, the market cap is 367 million right now.
Wow.
Now, what do you think the value is of a token tied to true upliftment, true improvement, heart power, your ability to be a creator, the ability to create win-win solutions, hit songs, peak performance? It's priceless, guys. This is what we're going to see. And you heard it here on this podcast.
Yes.
Our token, a token of me, these will be the highest priced tokens in our economy. And here's why. There's so many reasons why. Starting with, it's when a human is at their most valuable state. You are flowing infinite abundance in a flow state. You can self-heal. You can become so abundant, it's beyond money's ability to measure it, because money can't buy love. Money can't even buy healing.
Right.
We're going into a realm that I call it above money's pay grade.
I love it.
Okay. Money cannot touch where we're going. That's number one. Okay. And you got that. Number two, unlike all other token offerings in the world, we don't mint them for nothing. And let that sink in for a second.
Yeah.
All other token offerings, they just mint, just like money, it's minted for nothing. And, the co-owners, the co-founders keep most of it, or the investors. In our world that we're creating with Anya and other pilots like her, you become a pilot and you figure this out. You figure yourself out. What makes your heart sing? What contributes to you reaching for the sky of yourself, self-actualized version of you. When you do that, tokens are minted and they're yours. And you can sell those to investors. But their money, they can't bring us their money. We don't want their money. We want their love. And our pilots are the token offering. And so it starts at zero, and there's no cap. When I rap, I actually wrote a poem about this. The economics of this are win-win. There's no need for a cap because they're never made for nothing. They're only minted when a person improves themselves. And there's tremendous value in that for all of us.
For everyone. I imagine. Yeah.
A ripple effect. Imagine a ripple effect
of that.
Of every individual that is encouraged, inspired, that they are
Mm-hmm.
mining their, tokens, and they see, yeah, they will see the result, because, like, if we
Yeah.
are practical, if our mind still needs some proof that, we will have
Yeah.
these tokens.
Yeah.
But on, energy level, we will be creating such a huge ripple effect that it's going to
Mm-hmm.
benefit the whole humanity.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. When the tide rises, all the boats float.
That's true. It's
Mm-hmm.
very true.
Yeah. So this is unlike any other token offering that's ever been contemplated, and it's made possible because we receive these solutions in a flow state. And in a flow state, you're not trying to hold on. There is no lack, there's no scarcity. You're going for the win-win. And in this case, we have a trust called the MotherTree that owns a majority of the company. And the beneficiaries of the trust are the pilots. They are going to inherit the company. That's the game plan. That's my legacy plan. I'm not in it
George,
for the
are you a
money.
pilot already? Are you a pilot already, George? You should become a pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm beginning to see the way in which a token can be minted at a milestone. But maybe we could talk more about that. Is like when someone creates a song, when someone maybe has a child, but maybe we could speak to the idea of the minting of the token in the flow state. Like, what's that relationship and how does that work and how does that happen?
Yeah, we won't look for milestones.
Okay. Not a
That's
goal, it's a
still,
process, maybe.
no. All you have to do is elevate your metrics.
Okay.
That's it. Just know thyself, and get your heart metrics to elevate and or peak. And there'll be different tokens for different achievements. But it's and each day is a new day. Doesn't even matter what happened yesterday. We're keeping you in the moment, and you could be having a really rough day, and all you got to do is go up from there. And arguably, it might even be easier, because when you're already up, which we've seen sometimes on some of our episodes, it's hard to go up when you're already up.
Yeah.
But that's okay. You start to appreciate the contrast and the ups and downs, and it's not about always being happy or always flowing. It's about acceptance, and sometimes things happen that don't feel good, and it's more about learning how to accept what happens and not fight it, not react to it, and how to be more graceful about it and allowing of it, and not fight it, not attack it, but just be literally more loving and accepting. And emotionally, if you could just improve your state, that's all it takes. We're not making it like all of a sudden you have to be at the top of your game in order to, be rewarded. You just have to accept you where you are and figure out how to incrementally choose to be in a better place. Choose a better thought. Choose a better perspective. Don't go down the drain and feel sorry for yourself.
Or like put yourself under stress. Oh, I have to be in flow state. I have to mind this,
No,
No, it's not
exactly.
like
You
that.
don't.
Yeah.
No, you just have to figure out how to move the needle.
Yeah.
Right? So we're trying to make
Surrender.
Yeah, it's more about surrender. Exactly.
Yeah.
You get more mileage out of surrender than fighting. There's too much resistance in fighting. That's why in our application we ask a question: would you rather be right or happy? Because if you still want to be right, you're not going to be able to move the needle. You have to surrender.
Suzan, what is the let's say that Anya creates this token in a flow state. Like, what value is that to you?
To me, it's hard to put a value on it in the way you're asking. It's like asking what's the value of love and feeling happy for someone else. I'm inspired by people like Anya who figure this out. They're actually very actively helping us improve our formulas. And you can't put a number on that. When we get validation with these are pioneers that are
Right.
on board right now. You know, this is not for the faint of heart. You've got to know yourself, because it's so new that if you're looking for us to, you know, give, like tell you, it's too new. We want advanced people who actually already know themselves right now. Because when Anya flows, or some of these other pilots, and they tell us, yeah, I hit the high notes and look at my metrics. I mean, I remember this one, our founding investor, Chris Coyne, at the very beginning, you know, we were just experimenting with these formulas and seeing these, you know, waveforms. And all of a sudden he sends in a picture. All three of his metrics were at 100%, like solid for hours. I'm like, are you alive? Like, is this, I didn't even know this was possible, you know? So when it happens, I just go, oh my God, we're getting there. Yeah, we're figuring this out. And that means everyone, we want the universal formula. I don't want just the formula that works for Anya or Chris. I want, these guys are helping us figure it out for everyone. And you don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to be an expert in anything. You just can be an ordinary person. And you just want to know, how do I be a better person? And the more feedback we have to figuring that out, the more value this whole company becomes. You see how, and then what it evokes from me is a profound state of appreciation, because it means that this creation is maturing and will be of value to more people. And that's why I'm doing it. I want to see humanity discover its true value, its true power, and true love.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, that's how I want to change the world, is by one person at a time, inside out.
Yeah, I asked the question because on some level, I think what, at least in my mind, what I'm beginning to see is the turning away from seeking external value. You know, like it, while we have been conditioned our whole lives, probably through sitting in a class like a Pavlovian dog and trying to ask for permission for things, you know, all of a sudden we've been conditioned to seek approval and external value to feel good about ourselves.
That's
and now
exactly
all of a sudden, right?
Yeah, this is exactly right. I'm going to dive right into this, because you're touching on the difference between extrinsic value and intrinsic. And all of finance, all of the stock market, everything in the physical world is looked at in terms of extrinsic value. And they don't include intrinsic value because they can't. They don't know how to. A token of me is intrinsic value, and you can't really put a price on it. But as I said, it's above money's pay grade. It goes in. So on our website, my quote is, the best things in life are not things. It's, how happy are you? Are you feeling abundant? Are you feeling gracious, lucky, blessed, fortunate, satisfied, inspired? Like, is life worth living? Are you on fire or not? Like, that is intrinsic, and those are feelings. And extrinsic value cannot put a price tag on love. like how much is your kid worth? You know, it's literally like asking that.
Right.
You can't put a price on love of what you create, or your love of a person, or of a creative process. You can't buy that. That's why our tokens, your money can't make them. You have to derive intrinsic value in order to create them. And that's what they embody. As I said, from day one, when I got the calling, I wanted to bottle that up, that which can't really be bottled. which is your essence
Yeah.
at your best.
It
So,
seems
so
we've
we're
been
going to
trying.
see,
Yeah.
we're going to
Yeah.
see this unfold. It's going to be interesting, guys, because what comes with this kind of token of intrinsic value is a win-win reality, a win-win existence. And when a win-win economics comes into play, it makes win-lose become obsolete. And that's why we're going to see just a profound, and I can't even, I sometimes try to think about it and I get like an existential crisis. Like my brain can't think because I've been living in a win-lose world. So it's hard to imagine, what does a world look like when everyone wins, when everyone wins? And when you think about it, there is no cap, because when you feel more love, does that take away from other people's feeling of love? No, it gets more. It's win-win. If I have clarity and I'm speaking truth, doesn't that beget more clarity for me and everyone listening? It's win-win. And that's such a rare treat, but that's a flow state. Is when you're in a win-win state, more begets more. It doesn't take from anyone else, like when there's more trees, another tree doesn't, hurt, like it's good. So that's kind of how I try to explain it sometimes. We don't need to worry about, there's no cap to these tokens because there's no need. When the more you have, the better it is. The more love, the more kindness, the more appreciation. It literally, through law of attraction, will gain momentum and you'll get more. And there is no top and there is no bottom. So that's why I don't chase any bad thoughts down. I don't wrestle it to the ground because there's no ground. There's no bottom. I just go, ooh, I don't want to go. I want my soul compass to go, pull up. If I'm like caught in a conversation that's pulling me down, I want it to we interrupt this message. You are going down. Do you intend to continue, or would you like to, hit the reset and go up? So we're going to be in a much more self-aware. People are going to be more self-aware and less codependent on each other. More empowered.
Sorry to interrupt. I see it like win-win-win situation. Yeah, because it's like when you are flowing, the number, like the amount of synchronicities in your life, they really rise up. Like there are so many synchronicities that appear. That means that you are walking on your soul path. That means that you're gonna be rewarded, because you are using the soul compass, and you're gonna be rewarded from outside, because the life is here to reward you. And when you will be, seriously, when you will align with synchronicities, you will get more abundance. So it's like
it begets more. You're right. And even though we're rewarding with tokens, what Anya's touching on, and this is really for the next level of the game, you realize it's not about the tokens. The way you feel is the reward. And that's why I'm doing this. It's not for the money or the tokens. I'm doing it for the feeling of resonance with my divine true self. And then I can feel my divinity, my power. I'm here to create.
Yeah.
And I'm here. I can create more and expand more with others in a much more joyful way. And that is the reward.
There will be no scarcity,
There's exactly. There's no scarcity. Yeah. Even Elon Musk said this is the age of abundance. It really is. We're entering the age of abundance. And I was telling someone this earlier today. We're entering a realm where people won't be able to do anything, let alone their job, if their heart's not in it.
That speaks so much to my heart. Like, I see so many people, myself included. Like, I just can't do it anymore. I can't. Like,
No.
I tried as hard as I could. I
Mhm.
can't. I
Yeah.
escorted out by security. You know, I can't
Yeah.
do it. I tried.
Yeah.
I tried with
I
all
know.
my heart.
No, there's no value in it.
There's none.
And I mean in areas that you might not even realize, like anything you do out of obligation or even duty or even with the word should, if you
Or
think you
pressure, any kind of
should,
pressure. Yeah.
no pressure, no should, anything you do out of that energy has zero value and possibly negative value. Now we're not going to keep score of the negative side, but it's enough. We only are going to focus on the upside. We're not going to penalize anyone or take anything away because that's looking backwards. But yeah, going forward in the not too distant future, it's going to become more and more difficult for anyone to keep doing a job or staying in a relationship.
Yes.
Or anything that is not above neutral. It's got to be filling your heart, or you're just going to get heavier and heavier, and eventually you will just surrender, and then you'll go up. It's just a matter of time. Everyone's on their own journey.
I see it happening.
And how long can you take the pressure, and eventually you let go, and then you go.
It's such a tremendous gift. I think that when people begin to feel that pressure in the beginning, it's so hard. Like, you just crashing and crumbling around you, but it's the world really telling you, like, I love you, damn it, knock it off. Stop
exactly.
it.
Exactly.
Just stop it for a while and love
Yes.
yourself. It's
Yeah,
that's
right.
why you're here.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. And the paradox is we can't save anyone because everyone's creating their own reality.
Yeah.
So, that leads me to another question on our application. Would you rather save the world or self-actualize? We want people who are ready to self-actualize because we aren't here to save each other, and the world doesn't need saving. That's a very lackful belief system that, you're not feeling very secure, and so you're going to feel better by saving somebody else. Well, they don't want to be saved. Try tying a shoelace of a kid that wants to tie it himself.
We need to learn.
Yeah, we're not here to do it for each other. We can't live for each other. And if you actually try to save one, have you ever tried? Like, they will hate you. They will resent you because that's not the truth.
Right.
That's you actually a disservice trying to fool someone into believing that you're the divine. You're going to save them. Well, who the fuck are you?
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's a lie. And, the divine self knows that we all are divine and we're all worthy, and nobody is better than somebody else. And so it's about figuring it out to how do you get into your power? And that's the only way you're ever going to feel satisfied.
Yeah. Shout out to Mark Davis. Thanks for watching, Mark. Mark's an incredible individual. If people don't know him, he's like a connector.
I met him.
You did? Amazing, right?
Amazing.
More people should meet him. He's an incredible guy. It seems to me too that the world that seems to be emerging is, I don't know. I see it everywhere. I see it's sort of manifesting in an anti-authoritarian way. Maybe that's because people are trying to save everybody else, right? Maybe that kind of speaks to that whole idea of it.
Yeah, and that'll continue for a while.
Right.
And whenever I get into a debate with someone, I just end it by saying, "Perhaps you're right."
That's beautiful. Right.
You can't. Otherwise I go down.
Right.
And it really is an inner journey, and I'm just letting everybody take their time and putting my energy into people like Anya and other pilots. We have just some amazing people. It's an amazing group of people who we all want the same thing, which is we want to know the truth. and we're not afraid, right? A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people still want to like fool themselves and each other, and so they don't want to be measured. Like, okay, great, yeah, it's not for you. But when people, really want the authentic truth, and the authentic truth, by the way, isn't even focusing on your limitations. The authentic truth is, like you at your best. And the more this as this group grows, we are seeing ourselves as our better selves. And
Yeah.
that's the bar that we're aiming for. And in a very loving way, we're sort of holding our own bar up and pulling ourselves up, and that inspires each other as well, because then they're sharing with each other what's working for themselves. And I'm just now measuring myself. Like during this whole podcast, I consistently went up, you know,
I'm just
and
thinking. I'm also thinking, measuring.
you're speaking right now. Yeah, we do it right now. I mean, you get to the point where you can just feel it. Like I can absolutely feel that the upliftment in this call and how good it felt. And it, I had a call earlier with a new investor, and she was getting goosebumps. I was, like it's a great prep for this call,
Yeah.
is to have one like that. So yeah, we're all in this together, and we want a new world that is transparent and more allowing, more true, and happy for no reason.
I do. It's interesting that you touch upon. We've touched about the individual, finding a more authentic version of themselves and raising their coherence and being in the flow state. But also just now you've touched on multiple people together in a flow state. Like that seems like a whole other dynamic. Like if one person is able to lift up one or two people in their family or their relationships, what is it like when 3 or 4 people start working together in the flow state? Is it just a bigger echo, or is it more of a resonating frequency with people resonating together? Or have you
Yeah,
measured that?
think of it like a sports team.
Okay.
These are the ones who win the World Cup.
Yeah.
And sure, it's a team effort, but you still have to not measure it as a team. It comes down to each person, because each person in a coherent state like radiates this coherent energy into the field, and others become influenced by that not to them, not to each other, but to your own alignment. And that's why it's win-win. It's calibrating, it's helping to calibrate the energy field of everyone to think, feel, and act with perfect timing, with better timing, being right there at the moment the ball's there, so you can head it into the goal. I mean, that's done without thinking.
Right.
And you can look at it from the outside and go, oh, there's group coherence. Yes, but more importantly, there's individual coherence, because it's the individual coherence that causes others to be in their coherent state. And the more coherent each participant is in the group with themselves, not with each other. Very important distinction. And most people don't understand this. They think it's about each other. I'm like, no, it's not. It's always about you calibrating to your highest harmonic state with your divine true self. That's what causes more people to do the same thing. And we're all now resonating with the divine, which is like the lightning rod. That's the source. So we're all having super high harmonic resonance with the high truth. And that's what makes it a timeless, perfect experience for the group, because we're all having that oneness experience. And it's very paradoxical. It's hard to find words, because it's a oneness experience, but you don't lose yourself either. It's like you have it all. There's each of you in the wholeness, calibrating to your true self, not to each other. And a lot of projects make the mistake of entraining you to each other. And that's what's actually gone wrong. We're done calibrating to each other. Another person cannot be your source, cannot be your measuring stick. That's what creates resentment, blame, envy, insecurity, false beliefs. You know, another human is not your God.
Yeah.
It's not your true north. It can feel like that when you're having profound love, you know, but it's still, each of you are actually calibrating to your highest self in a state of great love.
Each of us is a, divine spark.
Yeah.
So each of
That's
us,
right.
every single one of us,
Yeah. And what we want, even in a team situation with group coherence, you're not training everybody on the team to calibrate to each other. Because then, let's say you had a front runner, you know, who was flowing, and everybody's like just like riding that person's coattails. Well, they're going to drag that guy down. Like you cannot carry another person for very long without the whole team suffering.
Right.
That's why we have to be self-sourcing about it and figure that out. That's why it's called self-actualization, not you actualizing me. You know, I'm not going to get validation from any human. That's not going to lead to satisfaction or power. That leads to dependency and blame and resentment and codependency at best.
Yep.
So we're really talking about some ideals of a new concept of true value and true coherence. You know, like when you look at a school of fish and or a flock of birds, you know, they're connected and they're flowing and they're not running into each other, but they're not calibrating to each other. You see what I'm saying? They're in their own coherent state, which doesn't run into each other by virtue of their perfection and timing and just knowing like which way to go when. They're not thinking, they're just going with the flow, literally. Right? Yeah, so those are some good examples to see the difference with group coherence versus, you know, among animals. It's easier to appreciate than it is with humans.
I have one example, if I may add, because I'm also a Heart Math Institute certified trainer, for activating the heart of teams. And when we went through a few examples, it's like, I don't know if you're familiar, Suzan, with the Brazilian skydiving team. When they were jumping out of plane and they wanted to create this form, like formation,
right.
in the air, and they just couldn't, but they were like super professional, super skilled, everyone were like on top of their game, but they just couldn't,
Right.
And then they went to this coherent state because there are a lot of techniques, also HeartMath has for like quick coherence or a lot of different methods and techniques. And on the go, like before they jumped out of the plane, they went into this coherent state, and then they could create that formation. But each and every one of them was in that coherent state because each person was coherent state, the formation was successful,
Sure. Great example.
It wasn't like, he was better or whatever, like, no, they were like, it was absolutely brilliant. You can check it out on YouTube, so it's like,
I get it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, instead of thinking their way through it, they just went into a coherent feeling state, and then they just had knowing, and they were having fun and out of their head, and
they were like
spontaneously, knew where to be and when to jump, and like you can't count the human mind cannot calculate all the equations needed to put yourself in the right,
for example,
to put everyone. It's hard enough with just yourself. Imagine it's like orders of magnitude ridiculously complex. And, so many humans are wired to think, oh, if we could get a computer to calculate that, then maybe we could do it. You're right. you know, just do this magic trick where you change your state into a higher coherence state, resonates with love, and
And Soul
boom,
Compass will pick up
it's
that.
magic, you know? Like magic really happens. It's crazy. I've really noticed it even on subtle levels, but the problem is these experiences are so personal, it's hard to convey to anyone else. And so I'll just use general terms. When something happens, you're like, oh my God, what are the odds of that? Like that's it's incalculable. Like when
Right.
that happens, you're coherently actually creating reality. You know, Steve used to say he could bend reality. Well, I go to the extreme and say we're all creating it. It's just, do you like what you're creating?
Yeah. You know, there's ideas like, how do you grow your own hair? Or, you know, how do you do that? Like, it's the same thing. It's magic, right? Like, we don't know how we do it, but we do it all day long.
I know so much of me just works without my thinking, and that's the part that works the best.
How do you think I see giant changes in language when I start thinking about the flow state. Like, you know, there's a weird sort of equation between imagery and imagination. But what do you think about language moving forward as we begin to understand the flow state?
Well, what I notice for me is it's sometimes harder to find the words to explain it because
Yep.
it's kind of like trying to explain the mystical experience,
Right.
or how do you know something without proving it. And you're less in your head. You're just more loving, and it becomes less of a need to justify in words. It's like becomes the reward in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you can find peace in that and satisfaction in that, you know, it's just, you realize no matter how hard you try to explain it, like Esther Hicks, for instance, with Abraham, she's been channeling Abraham for like 35 years. She even says, you know, we talk a lot and our words have evolved over the years, but words don't teach. It's experience. And so it's more about just people having this experience. And for a lot of people, they'll sometimes have a flow state by accident, or maybe it was an emergency that triggered it. And they're like, oh my God, how do I get that again? You know, because they just realize that's it. Oh my God, that's the spice of life. You know, I want that. And or when you've fallen in love, like imagine trying to explain it. It's hard in words. It's a knowing. And it'll move, and it has the power of moving mountains. Like you have real power when you're even without the words to explain it. You kind of become a walking example. And I see in our future, George, that there's going to be less need to use words to teach it. It's going to be more about just be it. I don't mean just do it, but be it. Like Anya and yourself, if you just be the example, it'll rub off without words.
That's really well said. I can see that too. It's the inefficiency of words has always been a problem. Like we can't describe meaning, and we just talk past each other so much.
Right.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, and like, you know, like when I first got the calling, watching Roger, you know, crying tears of joy, I'm like, I want that. I whatever he's eating, whatever you know, I just want that. And so that's why, you know, people like Anya is attracting a lot of new pilots, you know, because they're like, well, I want what has she got? I want
what is she
on? Yeah, what's she on? You know, like people listening to this podcast might think, you know, they're having an induced drug experience, because it can when you're having a mystical experience without drugs, it's like, wait a minute, are those guys like, what's happening? Right. And what happens is, and this is what's happened with people who've invested in us, they hear about it like, okay, this is it. I don't even need to see anything. Like, I just know this is it. You're going to get there. You know what I'm saying? You just stop trying to explain it. And it is about, like, it's a new essence of trusting your heart and believing in yourself. And that's huge. For a lot of people, that's big. Because they're still trying to prove themselves. They're still trying to do that job. They're still trying to win the approval of their loved one, of their parents, or their kids, and their neighbors, and their friends. And they're worried about what they think. And to just stop and go, you know what? I don't care what you guys think anymore. It's my life. And I'm gonna follow my heart. I'm gonna do what makes me happy. Because you know what? I can't make you happy. I'm turning myself into a pretzel, and I'm not happy. You're not happy. So how about I just surrender and just try to find out what I want and listen to my heart. And it's courage. It takes a lot of courage to do that. And it can be really scary to leave a relationship or leave a job.
Yep.
And, you know, I've done all of the above. And it's really scary at the moment. But there's tremendous dignity, satisfaction, growth, you know, and it always ends up better in the end when we figure out how to listen. So I just wanted to give people a way to really trust themselves more and share the value with the whole world, because I really believe that if I can contribute in a way that helps everybody improve their lives, that then my life gets better too.
I think that's a wonderful spot right there. Even though we've blown through like an hour and a half, like I think we just kind of scratched the surface of it, but I think it's a good starting point for people to begin to let go and start investigating what the token of me is and how it can fundamentally change their environment, the way they see themselves and the way they interact with themselves and their inner dialogue. And it's wonderful. But let me start with Anya. Anna, do you have any closing thoughts, or where can people find you? Or maybe you got some closing thoughts before we start landing this plane?
I just wrote it down. You know, it was a download. It's like, no, I have this also on my LinkedIn. So it's like, you cannot compete with me because I want you to win too.
Love it.
I love it.
Yeah. This is,
I love
you
that.
know,
yeah.
This is a golden nugget. From my side. But yeah, it's like everything what Suzan said, and also like my definition of flow, which I really resonate with what Suzan said. It's like a cosmic orgasm, and the thing like what you feel is like, ooh, I want it to last. I don't know what is it, but I want it to last. I want it to last. How can I make it last? You know, and that's it.
Yeah. So, how can I make it last, or how can I get it again? You know?
Yeah.
And when people can show themselves that they can reach it again and hold it a little longer, there's actually there's no greater satisfaction.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it may seem like a little trivial measuring stick, but if you could do that, your whole outer life experience will transform.
Change. Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Because if you are changing, if you're regulating, you know, if you know your inner world, you're going to create your outer world as well. So,
yep, absolutely. Yep.
It's an amazing tool for self-discovery. Suzan, what about, where can people find you? Or if in closing, like what, I mean, I think you've already put such a wonderful little bow on this particular session, but is there anything else that you want to talk a little bit about, or where can people find you, or if they want to talk more about you or what's happening, where do they go? What do they do?
Our website is tokenofme.io, and you can find all sorts of good things there, including you can apply for the Soul Compass. We're still open for new pilots. We're really looking for pioneers who want to help us validate this for more people. And so apply. that'd be the most valuable thing you can do. And the ones who score really high on the application, we gift them the software, and it's available on iPhone or Android. And then you just have to get yourself a compatible wearable, which we're using Garmin at the moment. And for a few $100, anyone in the world can get one on Amazon. And then you subscribe to our biometric feedback analysis. We have a basic program for $12 a month, and a more advanced version, which is a web interface, which is, you can see your raw data, and that's where the tokens will begin to be minted for the advanced users. So we like to have everyone start off in the sandbox and, kind of kick the tires, see how it works. And then we invite them as they progress into the advanced toolkit.
I think it's wonderful. I'm so excited we had this conversation today, and I'm hopeful that it not only resonates with everyone listening and watching today, but it will continue to do so for everybody that listens to on any platform, or that listens to it tomorrow or later today or on Thursday, next Saturday, whatever. But I'm so thankful for both of your time today, and I'm so thankful to get to hear the idea and get to resonate with it. So that's all we got. Hang on briefly afterwards, ladies. I'll talk to you briefly afterwards. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. For everybody that took a little moment, thank you. I hope you have a wonderful day. And that's all we got. Aloha.